Oh, you got it? Okay.
Amazon deliveries? So we got make sure check well.
Yeah. All right, before we get started, a couple quick housekeeping things. If you intend to vote tonight and you did not check in with your ID and get a ballot, please come up now so we can make sure you're checked in. Also, we're trying to record the meeting with the OWL device, which means people need to speak clearly and a little bit, project a little bit, particularly if you're in the middle of rows. All the bodies around you kind of filter out the sound and the OWL doesn't pick it up, and then you're not on the record.
If someone is speaking, please, other people in the audience, don't be speaking to your neighbor because the owl is very good at picking up sound sometimes. And
None of it sounds like a big murmur.
yeah, it's not very helpful later.
All right, I'm going to call this town meeting to order at 7:11 p.m. This is the Town of Willington town meeting. I'm going to read the notice and warning. The electors of the town of Willington and all persons who are entitled to vote in town meeting on the matters mentioned in the following warning are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Old Town Hall at 11 Common Road in Willington on Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 at 7 p.m. for the following purposes. Item 1, to see if the townspeople on the recommendation of the Board of Finance will appropriate $18,500 from LoCIP to account number 02-2029 to install new roof gutters at the Willington Public Library. Item 2, 1, resolve that the townspeople authorize the Willington Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject a grant for the building of a pre-K through 8th grade school. 2, resolved that the school building committee is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the proposed building of a pre-K grade school. 3, resolved that the townspeople hereby authorize at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the proposed building of a pre-K through 8th grade school. Signed by the 3 first selectmen and by the town clerk on December 2nd, 2025. I'll entertain motions for a moderator.
I'll nominate Erica Wazinski.
Okay, we have a nomination for Erica Wazinski. Do we have any other nominations for a moderator?
Second.
Second for that, sorry. Seeing none, Erica, I hope you're here. Oh, yeah.
I checked.
All right. Without objection, I will refrain from repeating the call and move on to the first item. Is there any objection? Item 1, to see if the townspeople, on the recommendation of the Board of Finance, will appropriate $18,500 from LoSiP to account number 02-2029 to install new roof gutters at the Willington Public Library.
So moved.
Second. All right, I'll ask, as we begin discussion, that all conversation be, through the moderator, so questions here, and then, answers if need be from, pertinent parties in the audience. I believe the library director, is here, if you would like to speak to the item, first, I just ask you to identify yourself for the record.
Yeah, sure thing, Steve Ozier, Library Director. So I have a copy, read over some of the summary details. This is for the installation of new aluminum roof gutters. This is in a section of the library that did not have gutters previously. It includes downspouts and various discharge piping, as well as de-icing cables along the eaves within the roof gutters and the downspouts of those new gutters at the library. We went out to bid on September 4th, 2025. We received one bid. On September 25th, 2025, the bids were closed. And that was $18,500. It does also include de-icing elements near the front entryway of the library. Before my time, it was a concern around the background of the building that the angle and significant snowfall and ice heaves that can build up near the entryway was a potential safety hazard. So de-icing elements for that area would connect to an existing wire that's inside the copper gutters in the front of the building that help mitigate and melt away the water into the drainage. So that's a summary of the project, and I believe Premier Gutters is working with the local electrician to, once approved, to work on the electrician side. The driving cost for the project was scaffolding. They could not get a cherry picker truck or a boom lift behind the building due to the steep grade. And they said they would keep the cost of scaffolding as low as possible, but that was the driving factor for them. Safety of their workers, as well as just the grade at which they have to go up to install those new gutters.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Did you say we
I
got
ask
one
you to
bid?
identify yourself for the record.
Liliana Barone.
Thank you.
One bid we got? I couldn't hear one.
That's one bid was the question.
Yeah, there was only one bid. We had 3 or 4 other contractors come out and take a look, but none of them ever submitted formal paperwork. We even handed them copies of it and walked it through them, but only one ever came back with everything filled out as appropriate.
Any other?
Apologies, because I'm very young.
I just ask you to identify yourself
Oh,
for the
I'm
record.
Richard Weiler. I also am on the library board of trustees. One of my, and I'm very much in favor of this because it's definitely a project that's in need. My only question is, does that VAT guarantee for a certain number of years? Others are problematic sometimes.
The question was, did that bid have a guarantee or warranty for a particular number of years?
Yeah, double checking if the bid information included warranty paperwork. I don't believe the amount included those details. I will just say anecdotally, the gutters, the copper gutters that were originally installed are in great condition. There's a few brackets that could use repair, but they have been in phenomenal condition. This is also an area that doesn't get a lot of weather exposure outside of just, again, there's a lot of ice and snow in that area. It will sit there, so the de-icing elements will help alleviate that. But I would assume, the gutters that we have that are copper were 20 years old. I'm guessing these were COVID, lasted at least 20 years. So, yeah, sorry, at this point, I don't think I see a warranty on it, but I could get that information from the contractor.
Yes.
Approved.
Ralph Tillis, Phillips Road. Steve, I'm sorry. My question is, are we adding gutters to match what we have? Are we doing copper or are we doing something less costly?
Less costly. The new gutters are aluminum. They are ASTM B209 alloy with 26,000 PSI. So yeah, they're only aluminum. Same thing with the downspouts. Those will also be aluminum. And then there'll be new 4-inch piping buried beneath the ground and directed to daylight discharge approximately 30 feet from the building corners. It'll vary based off of where the building is. Like certain sections more like 15 to 20 feet, but 30 feet was a minimum for one of the corners for the piping to discharge out to where the current copper gutters already discharge away from the building.
To answer your question. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
So the gutter,
And you identify yourself.
oh yeah, Bruce Lawler, River Road. So the back of that building is extremely high, and I'm wondering if there's gonna be gutter helmets on those, or if you're gonna have to set scaffolding up at some point to clean the gutters out.
Gutter, if you heard the question, would there be gutter on those, or would we need to have additional scaffolding to clean the gutters?
I would have to ask that. I would assume they would probably put covers or something to avoid debris. Currently, there is a lot of spacing away from the building, so at least when I've been up on the flat part of the roof, when I climbed up actually last week with a roofing contractor, there's very limited debris, so it doesn't seem as though there's a lot of risk of debris outside of the ice and snow being on the roof, which again should with the de-icing elements draw it away.
Question.
I would add to that, when I examined the foundation on that building, the existing gutters that had been there for some 15 years, perhaps, minimal debris in those gutters. So I don't think that's going to be a concern.
Any further discussion? Discussion, you have a ballot. The orange ballot is for the first item. All right, so there are pencils on the front desk. If you receive a ballot, mark your ballot. I believe our first motion is going to mark your ballot. Christine, so Steve or Mike will mark your ballot. Again, if you need a pencil, there are pencils on the front. Get there.
Did we get everyone's orange ballot? Thank you.
Yeah. That's shades of page she was to the other side of the bed. Yeah. The one that she did the football match, right? Certain right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I still do. Some husky.
I was thinking of you when we were watching the band, because they do like band aerobics, like how
At the game.
at the game. How do they manage to do that? That, like I was that they were that kind of thing, and it was just amazing.
Excellent. We had presented Mrs. Stacy. They came up and got pictures with us, and two of the players came up and brought them to us. Susan Close.
Yeah, we came up like behind them during intermission, and like the whole band just sort of like came running up, and like they're trying to take pictures with a trumpet between their legs and stuff.
We had a plastic. Dozens. It's great too. Everybody comes up and says, "I'll picture with you." We always say, "Of course." I'm
Thank you, all right, item 1, 7, noes 9. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
I won't be insulted if you choose to go home. No offended, it wasn't. All right, item 2. Item 2. 1, resolve that the townspeople authorize the Willington Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject a grant for the building of pre-K through 8th grade school. 2, resolve that the school building committee is hereby established as the 8th grade school. 3, resolve that the townspeople hereby authorize at least the preparation of schematic drawings outlining specifications for the proposed building of a pre-K through 8th grade school.
So moved.
Tia, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, I know the Board of Education has a meeting this evening, so here, Mr. McCoo, will you be speaking to this item?
I'll give it a start, sure. Okay, so the topic is not new, but we're back at this point in the process to see if the townspeople will formulate a committee. The reason for the formality of this step is that if a project moves forward and the committee creates a project that the townspeople support, then the process to get the reimbursement is to submit an application to the state for reimbursement. We'll talk about rates in a minute. But to do that process, it's required that the building committee be formalized through townspeople. This, what we have as item 2 tonight. There was question when this was read at the selectmen's meeting, which created the call for this meeting tonight. There were some questions about how it was worded. The wording was prescribed by the state granting agency, the Department of Administrative Services. They sent us the wording, and so we followed what they sent to make sure that we did not create a technical problem with submission to the grant. There were questions from a couple people in town about whether the wording was hinting towards restricting this only to it is construction of some type, it is a new building of some type. It is not restricted to only a brand new building on a new lot or the existing lot, whatever. So those were a couple of questions that came up. There were also questions about the timing and the rush That gets us into the reimbursement rate question. For anyone who's following this, you know from last time, we were wrestling with reimbursement rates somewhere in the 60% ranges, low 60s, high 60s, depending on certain qualifiers. And we could not in that time get an answer as to what the reimbursement rate would exactly be until after we essentially passed it as a townspeople, which left us in a quandary because we didn't really know what to tell the townspeople would be the reimbursement, which meant it could have a varying effect on taxes. What is different this time is we know, and we got further confirmation this morning from Tammy Nuccio with an email that some of the other people involved have, I'm not the only one who has it, confirming our reimbursement rate this time. So this time we know in advance of what our reimbursement rate is going to be. That allows us to, if we choose to move forward with the committee and put a project together for the townspeople to review and decide if they're going to approve it, they will also have the information about what the cost and the impact on taxes will be at that time, because we know what the reimbursement rate is going to be. We also know the reimbursement rate is going to be much higher this time. We have confirmation that we would likely be in the 93.3 to 93.33%. And then there are other possible add-ons that could happen after that, but that we cannot confirm until we submit the application. So there is still a possibility of getting more, but we do know we're at 93.33% reimbursement, which means the money we all are paying right now into our income taxes to the state goes into this fund. This fund gets spent every year going to pay for someone's schools. That is what funds this grant that would come back. So the impact to the local tax, our budget, would be the 6-point-something%. So you can extrapolate your own numbers. Everyone's going to make up their own numbers on what this thing costs. We just know for sure it's 93.33, and then maybe higher percentage. From Tammy Nuccio's office today, she said we can take this to the meeting. It's firm information. The biggest complication for this is that this reimbursement rate, the 93.33, is available to us for the next year and a half. We have a year and a half to get the application in. So that seems like it's not a rush. The problem is July 1 of 2026, there is legislation that's already in place, already passed, that lowers the rate of reimbursement per square foot, not the percentage of reimbursement on the project, but the per square foot allowable cost. So right now, we're allowed approximately, it varies, there are little nuances, but we're allowed approximately $750 per square foot of construction cost reimbursement through the program. After July 1st, that goes down to $534. That's the big problem with the timing, and hence the rush. Now, the rush gives us all agita because you don't want, it's something this big, we don't want to rush for it. So the way to maximize our potential reimbursement for a project is we have to have something ready for referendum and application by the end of June of 2026, which is a very short schedule. So that's kind of the background of the whole thing. Of course, we can go further. Of course, the townspeople can say they don't want the project. But we will likely never, ever see 93.33 again. We got special legislation, bipartisan support, Tammy Nuccio's office, Jeff Gordon's office, the previous Board of Selectmen. Again, bipartisan in town, bipartisan in Hartford. Everybody put a lot of work into getting us to this point where we have this previously unheard of 93.33%. So that's, I think, as good a background as I can give as to why it's now a thing we got lost on.
Let the questions come through the moderator, and I'll remind the discussion to stay on the topic, which is to authorize the Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services a grant to form and at least to authorize the preparation With that, and again, I ask you to identify yourself for the record. I'll start here in the front row.
Lori Semperbaum, I just want to clarify, because I think I understand this correctly, but for others who might not. So this is just to form a school building committee. The first item says, and to accept or reject a grant. That's what we do later when this comes to a vote to the town on whether we accept or reject it. So this is not voting on, we're definitely going ahead with the school building project.
There is no project
Right.
currently.
I'm just
so there is
clarifying
no
that.
committee.
Yeah.
Correct.
There's no committee, there's no project.
Correct, and even if you took this in the inverse, we could actually establish this committee and we could design a building. The difference of doing this formal process right now is it improves what we can apply for reimbursement. The application process to the state does not recognize your project for reimbursement until the townspeople have established a school building committee. This commits the town to nothing other than forming a committee and saying we will get another chance to decide if we're going to accept the grant or not accept the grant. It basically makes what we do applicable to the grant.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to.
Identify yourself for the record.
Orlando Rodriguez. I just want to make sure we clarify that it's 93.3 cost of construction. So the balance, which is 6 point whatever, that we would pay would be for the cost of construction. It is not that our property taxes are going to go up.
Yes and no. How's that for a government answer for you? A clarification, it's 93.33% of project cost.
Of the project.
And the critical difference there is project can include a lot of things beyond construction. That's the only reason I wanted to clarify that. It's 93.33% of anything in the project that's eligible for reimbursement. For example, if the project, if we were gonna build a new I'm gonna do something preposterous. If we're gonna do a new 10-story school where Center School is right now, the demolition of the old Center School would be part of that. Within the reimbursement, it would be a reimbursement. So it could be entire project cost. The difference being that $750-some versus $534 that I talked about before, that is specific to construction cost. Now, to answer the rest of your question about impact on taxes, that is decided as another part of the process. For example, there may be either a revenue stream or there may be money that we already have put set aside in capital planning that might be used to bring down, if the remaining 6-point-something% is, say, $5 million, again, I'm making up numbers, and we have $5 million set aside in reserve, then it would essentially, if the town chose to apply that reserve, then it would be no impact on taxes. But again, that decision has to be made later when we work out the budget.
Carl Pearson, 55 Fermier Road. Does the reimbursement system include land acquisition?
Yes. Yes, reimbursement does apply to land acquisition up to a certain size. So there's a formula like everything else with the state. Depending on the size of your school, the amount of people in it, equates to a certain amount of acres that the state assumes is reasonable. And so if you want to buy 1,000 acres, they're not going to reimburse you for the 1,000 acres. They'll reimburse you for I think last time we were talking about something on 18 acres. Last time. I don't know how the formula is going to work out this time. It might be close to that. They would reimburse up to 18 acres. And then if you bought a 1,000-acre piece, the remaining 982 acres or whatever would not be reimbursed.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
Bruce Lawler, 48 River Road. So with that reimbursement, the original reimbursement discussed was 80%. So what brings it up to 93% is that we have to start increasing programs that the school has, such as the special ed department and the square footage that's involved with that. I believe that has to be maintained and used for 10 years. The other portion that adds up to that and hits the 93% is that we have a daycare program for infants all the way up to where they start school. So it's not like we would have the original programs that we have now. We would be adding programs to get that 93%.
So again, yes and no. We already have a pre-K program. So we're gonna be eligible for a certain amount of that already. If we expand out the pre-K program a little bit larger, that square footage that grows will grow with the reimbursement rate. So one, we already have pre-K. Two, we do not have to have special ed to get that. And the pre-K does not necessarily have to go. I can't answer the question of what age you have to go to on the pre-K, but we do already have a pre-K program, so we're already eligible for a portion of it. If we expand it out, we have square footage, that is all reimbursable.
Right, but I just have to add, so the pre-K program we already have is part of the special ed program for children who are challenged and have disabilities. But we don't presently have daycare. And to get that 93%, you would have to have a daycare program.
No, you have to have a pre-K, and technically they're different. But the pre-K program right now is not all special needs. The pre-K program supports special needs, but it also has slots for people who are not qualified for special needs. I know because my daughter was one of them going through it. And those slots are already existing in pre-K. And again, the reimbursement for special needs programs or special education is another on top of the 93.33 if we chose to go that route. That would be adding program, and that would increase our reimbursement rate even higher. We would get up above 95%. But again, we can't apply that right now. That's not where we are. That comes at application time.
Here and then I'll back over.
Okay, Ralph Billis, Village of Road. Let's look at the percentages. I have communication from Tammy today about this.
Can you speak up a little bit, Ralph?
Sure, I'll do better. The 93.33% is based on new construction. A new school in a new location. We can get up to 95.71% reimbursement with an addition and code updates to the existing Hall School. So we get an increase if we were to work with Hall to get this project. And from my perspective, I think the charge that is given to this committee is essential and has to cover exactly what we should be examining. New on a new site or an addition and code upgrades to Hall, because we get a higher reimbursement if we do something with Hall. And I think that would be great. Back to special ed. The increase in reimbursement because of adding a special ed space is that reimbursement is only on the space used for special ed and not on the entire project. We have very clear language from Tammy on that. So that may or may not be beneficial, but I think these are things that the committee needs to understand that they need to examine. Basically, I ran out some numbers. For every $10 million of construction cost, we're going to be paying $429,000. The town. That will be our portion of it. So you can use the 10 and multiply it by 5 if it's a $50 million school or whatever. It is conceivable, I think, that we could do this without floating a big bond. Very possible. But the charge of the committee is the key. And that's something that I'm going to be very stubborn about as far as the language in that charge. I've been through it with the previous school building committee, and it was.
I'll ask us to stay on topic. The charge is not an item
Understood.
discussed in this item.
You're correct, but it's a very essential part of this whole process.
Again, the question today is whether or not we agree to these 3 items within item 2, and the charge is a separate item by a separate
I just
body.
I do not want people to lose sight of the fact that it could be a new building, it could be an addition and code upgrades to home.
Again, I will remind the folks in this room that the question is to establish a building committee with regard to a proposed. There is no project, if there is no committee, this discussion is revolved around these 2 questions. Okay. I'll come back to it, so I'll hand in the back first.
It's Albert Road, just from point of clarification, pre-K, and correct me if I'm wrong, pre-K is not for everyone, it's split between special needs and a lottery system. So not everybody that has a pre-K child would go into the system, is that correct?
So I'll say that we have a current program, there's no program in this topic, so we can't speak to what program would happen later. The charge of the reimbursement would come in under the auspice of the school building committee, so we couldn't talk to what that program would look like. There is an existing peer-based program now.
So right now, not everybody does get accepted.
We don't have spots for every pre-K child in town, no.
Okay. This also percentage does not incorporate any carrying costs. Hypothetically, if we move to a new site, carrying costs for hall or center, or whatever theory may happen, correct?
Correct, nor would the reimbursement rate apply to swing space necessarily. That would have to be a separate conversation with the state. For example, if we were to rebuild Hall School completely and we needed swing space, we do not have an answer right now whether the grant would cover swing space.
Okay.
Again, that's getting a little off topic of starting the committee. The committee could better answer these questions later.
So there are though some caveats to this 90, maybe, I think Bruce said 80 something, and then maybe caveats to get to the 93. It's not, we are at 93.3.
That would be something for the committee to delve into and to be able to speak clearly to the townspeople about. The committee would then have to get into the weeds of that and be able to answer to townspeople.
Okay, I'm kind of confused, why would we talk about 93.3 if we don't know that then?
The topic tonight is not how.
So we don't know if it's 93.3. Okay.
It's the same as what I said before, Nick.
Yeah.
93.33 with some expansion of the pre-K.
Caveats and stuff.
Well, that's with expansion of pre-K, that's the only caveat.
And, all right, this would be happening at the same time fire department. Okay, cool, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I saw a hand in the back, and then I'll come back to the front.
Jake Marshall.
Yeah, that's kind of steep power there.
Jake Marshall, Fisher Road. Thanks for all the work everybody's put into this thus far. Just to kind of echo of the moderator saying, this is really just a procedural step. It's as simple as it gets. It forms the committee that's going to work to get all these answers for everybody in town, for every taxpayer that's going to potentially help fund this. And granted, most of my work is my grant-related school work is in Rhode Island. And there are 2 things for sure. One, the process does get complicated, and the second is you don't mess with the process. So you don't mess with the process. You don't risk eligibility on $50, $60 million worth of grant from the state. You just get it done. So forming this committee has to happen. It has to happen quickly. It probably should happen. I encourage the Board of Selectmen to appoint these members as soon as possible so that they can get read in on 4 years worth of historical information before they get started in the new year. Very critical, so we can't delay. We can't further complicate the process when there's going to be a complicated discussion down the road because the committee has a chance to be reported. So I encourage everybody to support this and people in the room to help move this along if we can.
Okay, I'll come back to you if everyone else has an opportunity to tell them. It's on hand here in the front.
Tintrish, 97 Trask Road. I want to comment directly on the hall that Hugo presented tonight. And I expressed his concern at the selectmen's meeting way. Words do matter, and I do respect the process, so it's important that we state clearly what we're voting on. And all three of the subsections of this item 2 state the building of a pre-K through 8th grade school. That seems to imply a single new building on the site. It's been interpreted that way, and I don't think our community wants to have a future school building committee or our town limited to any single option. They should have maximum flexibility to have a successful school project. I too checked with Representative Nuccio, Senator Gordon, and DAS, and this language is not statutory, it's not prescribed, it's what they're accustomed to seeing, is explained to me. Greatly improved if we made a small change where we stated after through an 8th grade school, we added or addition. That would encompass both what Ralph is discussing in terms of new construction of the school or a renovation reconstruction. Right. That would give our building committee every opportunity to pursue every option and maximum opportunity for success. To that end, I would like to make that motion. We have a motion on the floor.
I will remind folks that Willington does not have a pre-K through 8th grade school. So any project that was a pre-K through 8th grade school, this does not say new building, this does not say renovation of the building. It is a proposed building of a pre-K through 8th grade school. So that's all it does, is make one project that's pre-K through 8. We have now a pre-K through 4 school, and we have a 5 through 8th grade school. This would be one combined school. This charge does not negate the opportunity to have the school building committee choose what the project is.
Comment on my comment?
I'm moderator, so yeah.
I strongly disagree. It doesn't say that. And I don't know why we can't just say that.
Yeah, I can say procedurally,
I can
we can't
finish.
change the language of the call. The question is an up or down question. At town meetings, we would not change the question here. Mike, you want to speak to that?
I do want to speak more and address that, and going back to my earlier comment on this question was raised by you and other people after that selectmen's meeting. That led to a whole flurry of phone calls and emails the next day. You were involved in some of them. And Representative Nuccio Gordon talked to DAS, everyone agreed, informed back to those of us, including you, that this language does not prevent us from doing a certain amount of variation of projects. It does not keep us from doing an addition to all school. And so that's been clarified. Again, this was built based on clear instructions from DAS, regardless if they think it's the way they normally see it or whatever. They sent us an email and said, use this language. If there's anything that's my job as first selectman in trying to do the right thing for the town, it's follow the instructions that are given to me by people who say, we're going to evaluate this and this is what we want you to put on here. Maybe there were options to do other things, but that's what they told us to do, so that's what we did. We want to have the highest likelihood of being eligible for the grant. There's been obviously a huge amount of work done over the last couple of years to get us to this point and to get that special legislation through. And this is what we were told, the languages, and we were also told after that when we asked the question, this does not restrict us to only a singular brand new building. It's the best I could do with the information.
All right, is there anyone who hasn't had an opportunity before I come back to the two gentlemen? Any new discussion currently? All right, I'm going to go to the back to Mr. Tillman and then come back to you.
Thanks, Ellenberger Road. So I don't know if any powers to be can speak on how those will be appointed to this committee that we're saying that we can get formed. And maybe I was naive But what I just took from there is the committee to be established is not even gonna consider keeping hall and center, it is full steam ahead, one building?
Absolutely not. The question is, a pre-K through 8th grade school. So the committee would be established and then it would go to the Board of Selectmen from, who would, I can speak to how they would, appoint that, I believe this come up in their meetings. But there's nothing to say, there's no project here. So there is nothing in this meeting that is saying anything about a project, just that there's a committee to determine a pre-K through 8th grade school. The details of that would be determined by the committee and then ultimately taxpayers.
Alright, because the way this is written makes it seem like it is only pre-K to 8 and pre-K to 8. It doesn't give any indication that any other possibility could be considered. The way this is written.
I believe that is correct, so it would be one combined school. Whether that be existing somewhere now or in a new location, that is correct.
Which is part of the problem the last project had, that they didn't look at all alternatives, right? And that's the kind of the road we're going down again. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Rodriguez?
Tim Delaney, I just want to remind folks, if you don't already know, I think it was last year.
You gotta speak up.
I just want to remind folks that if you don't already know, I think it was last year or last session or one before, the state denied a whole bunch of grant requests because the applications were not exactly filled out exactly the way the state. So it behooves us just to fill it out the way they want it, so they can't reject it for what it is.
Any other discussion? Seeing your hands, make sure everyone has an opportunity. Okay, raise your hand.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Understanding, although I'm deeply concerned about it, that this item 2 would allow us to consider all options. If in fact, in the third paragraph, calls for the preparation of schematics, does that mean we need to have schematics for every conceivable option? How would that work?
That's a question for the committee as they work their way through the process.
But we're
Obviously, they're not gonna spend taxpayer money to do 7 different sets of schematics for 7 different options. They're gonna work their way into.
But we're voting to authorize it tonight, so what are we authorizing?
You're authorizing schematics.
You're authorizing the ability, because the application requires schematics. So there would have to be at least one set of schematics with the application. If for some reason there was a decision, which I don't know if this could happen, if there was a decision to submit 3 applications, then there would have to be 3 sets. Again, it's just saying the townspeople are authorized to produce schematic for the application. You cannot apply without schematic on the plans.
I'll just conclude my comment by saying this again seems to suggest a single option that's deeply concerning.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, going once. Going twice. All right, with that, I will close discussion. Have a yellow ballot. Again, their pencils are front. Mike and Christine will collect your vote. Finally, if you check it.
I'll be around. That's what you do.
We will when
She goes around, she's effective. She's way more effective than I am, and that's good.
Yeah, yeah, precisely.
Any yellow ballot cards left?
Anyone still turning their back?
Oh, you're so effective.
For ballot.
Did you drink a pencil?
Well, I think we all have to return our individual pencils.
If you borrowed a pencil,
Can you send me a text?
I can start selling pencils.
Visual takes for hours. Original sheet stuff.
It's the same.
Yeah. It looks just as
In item 2, the yeses 41, the noes 7. With that, I will say there is still a lot of work to be done by our town's people. And I'm sure we'll be back here again to discuss other items. And with that, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
No other business before us. Thanks for coming, folks.
I'll get one of them tomorrow.